Lots of note takers.
Yeah, I should kick off the note takers because they could violate copyright of certain things because I'm displaying an ACM
Yeah, I'll do it.
slide.
Okay, we'll take those out. Thank you. Hello, Bill.
Hi,
David.
hello, how are you guys?
Hi, everybody. Hi, Leanne.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, good day.
Fine.
Hi,
Jonathan
hello.
will. Great. Nice to have you on the call. Thank you so much for joining us. And Jonathan
Thank
will
you.
call on you a bit later, if that's okay.
100%. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Afternoon, everyone. We'll just wait another minute for everybody to connect, and then Jonathan will start.
Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Great. Over to you, Jonathan.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jonathan Mpake, and I just want to welcome you on behalf of SAPICS to this informational session about the career blueprint. It's a workshop detailed around career development. I just want to start by saying, in a world that's defined by persistent disruption, geopolitical shifts, energy instability, and escalating skills shortage, climate pressures, and infrastructure challenges across the continent, supply chain leaders of tomorrow are being forged, even in this particular environment. In this 75-minute interactive SAPEX Career Blueprint Workshop, is your actionable roadmap to rise above the turbulence, aligned with SAPEX's enduring mandate since 1966 to elevate, educate, and empower supply chain professionals throughout South Africa and the continent. We will clearly map the career pathways from warehousing and manufacturing operations through planning and inventory management to strategic leadership roles. You will leave here understanding precisely how SAPEX aligned educational programs and those that we collaborate with ASCM, like CSCP, CLTD, CTSC, and many more, equip you with the high demand skills that organizations need right now, turning today's challenges into tomorrow's career breakthroughs and lasting business impact. This is more than inspiration. It is the blueprint for us to lead. Today, we have experts in the field that are more than just experts. They are people who walk the talk. They are people who understand what supply chain management is about. They have gotten the t-shirt, they've worn it proudly, and they can tell you even how the t-shirt is made and where it's distributed. We have Ruben Lawrence. He's a freelance DDMRP implementer, supply chain educator with 30 plus years experience. He's a seasoned planning and inventory specialist, and he deals with diverse industries across the continent. He's also an educator through the SAPEX programs, and he helps organizations build robust, demand-driven systems that thrive amid volatility, port delays, tariff uncertainty, unpredictable demand. Ruben excels at translating complex planning concepts into practical career accelerating skills that deliver measurable resilience and efficiency. The other panel member today is Karen Pretorius. She's the founder of KPI Cube Supply Chain Consulting and Training, a former SAPEX director. Karen is a highly regarded trainer, change management expert, sustainability strategist, who has designed and guided hundreds of professionals through ASCM and SAPEX certifications. As a former director and founder of her KPI Cubed institution, she designs and delivers masterclasses on sustainable supply chains, operational transformation, and leadership development. Current connects education directly to career progression, showing how targeted skills close the continent's skills gap and position professionals for strategic impact in 2026 and beyond. So today we're going to have these two presentations and a special treat towards the end of someone who has actually gone through some of these certifications and it's benefited their career tremendously. So we're going to start with Ruben, and just a couple of heads up. We will wait for the questions at the towards the end of the seminar, and please jot down those questions. Feel free to actually put questions as we go along in the chat, and then we will make sure that we answer those questions comprehensively as much as possible. And at the end as well, you will hear about our landmark conference that we're celebrating this year. So I want to just give it over to Ruben to talk about, he's going to be presenting about planning, manufacturing, and career progression. He's going to be able to give you real-life practical world insights into effective planning and reshaping modern manufacturing environments. So over to you, Ruben, for your presentation. Thank you so much, team.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. Let me just share quickly. Okay, you should be able to see my screen. So, Jonathan, thanks very much for the introduction. So, as you heard, I'm going to be talking a little bit about planning, manufacturing, and how one progresses one's career along the supply chain. So, firstly, I think what we need to understand is that supply chain careers are not linear. So perhaps in the past, we believed that supply chains were linear. So you go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 up the ladder. Okay. In fact, supply chain careers need to be designed. So it's something intentional. It's something that you and I as individuals need to design. So we need to have a clear goal of where we want to go, and then follow a course to get us to where we want to be in our career. And of course, it's particularly true in planning and manufacturing that supply chains are not, or careers are not linear. Okay, so it requires a shift in thinking. Okay, so our bosses beat us; they want more and more out of us, and we work longer hours, we work harder, we do work at home, but that's not going to get us to progress our career. The way we're going to progress our career is actually by thinking differently. So we need to change our behavior. We need to change our mindset to be able to progress our career in supply chain. So we can look at a pathway, demand planner, then supply planner, then sales and operations planning lead, then integrated business planning. Sorry? Is somebody asking a question?
No, I think somebody's just not muted. Please mute yourselves. Thanks very much.
All right.
Sorry, Ruben.
Okay, all right. Okay, so that could be seen as a logical pathway. Okay, let me just go a little bit more into it. I said we need to change our thinking, we need to change our mindset. When we look back at the early phases of our career, demand planning is all about reacting. So something happens and we need to respond to that. Okay, demand has gone up by 40%, or it's gone down by 60%. So we are constantly in reactive mode. Okay, we fighting fires, we chasing things. Okay, so that's how our careers start. Then we move on to supply planning. So what does the supply planner then do? So how does that person's mindset change? Okay, so the supply planner says, how do I balance things? Okay, I'm looking at the demand and I need to now balance supply. So already a shift in mindset takes place. When we then look at sales and operations planning, a new mindset creeps in. Here we go to say, how do we align what we're doing with business strategy? Business strategy on the one hand, market pressures and forces and dynamics on the other hand. Now we've got to align those things. We've got to bring them all together. And when we then move on to integrated business planning, IBP, that kind of world, okay, now we're looking at leading strategy. So we see what's happening in the market, in the world, and we say, well, how do we influence, guide, develop strategy, okay, to be able to take advantage of opportunities or minimize the downside of any risks that might be presenting themselves. So you can see how our careers will progress from being very reactive to looking at how do we try and predict things and how do we orchestrate. Okay, so we look at the skill set that we need to be able to make this shift. Okay, so we start off with spreadsheets. Okay, so everybody's favorite Excel. Okay, and we progress that onto systems. So perhaps an advanced planning system. Okay, that or a demand-driven system that helps us to bring the data together, to visualize it, and to be able to make informed decisions. Okay, we move from a world of data, too much data, to gaining insight. So we'll use tools like Power BI or a demand-driven planning system to give us insights into what's actually happening and set up dashboards, set up parameters so that we can start looking at the critical few things that make the difference instead of being drowned in all of this data and not being able to understand what's going on. So being able to create a visual dashboard that guides the 80-20 principles. So what are the 20% of things that we need to focus on that will give us the 80% of results? Okay, and then moving away from functions to how do we align the business? So all the functions within the business, how do we get those to align so that we can take advantage of the modern tools that we have, that we can take advantage of any challenges that might exist in the workplace. Okay, so this is where education comes. Okay, so it's also structured, and I'm not going to steal Karen's thunder. Okay, she's going to talk more about it. All I'm going to say over here is, without education, you're not going to understand what to do and how to do it. So we recommend you start off with a foundational course. Okay, CPIM will help us with systems thinking. CSCP is also there. That is like a mini MBA. It will take you through the whole of supply chain, looking at it from A to Z. And then we've got the Demand Driven Institute, which is really about demand-driven planning and demand-driven systems. So much newer and much more dynamic and very, very useful in the world that we live in today. Okay, so let's look at the manufacturing pathway. Okay, we can move from production planner to operations planner to plant director. Okay, so we can see a clear pathway over there, but I think the key thing for us to understand is that we can have as many machines and they can be as automated as possible, and we can have every bell and whistle. Okay, it's not going to help us at all if our planning is not on the button. Okay, planning is really the key thing. So to understand the role of planning and what all the dynamics are, which buttons to push and when, that's really key. So it's to understand, for example, things like lean principles, quality systems, integrated planning. Those are all the tools, those are all the skill sets that you and I as planners need to develop to ensure that our factories don't fail. Okay, then we can look at integration and what some of the realities are. So often we'd use a forecast to drive production. I would have loved to put something in here about demand-driven. I didn't do that, but certainly demand-driven principles and systems help us and supersede the forecast in many respects. Okay, it's looking at inventory buffers so we can reduce our risk, making sure that our systems are all aligned so that when it comes to the execution phase, that things work as expected, they work as planned. Okay, so we're looking at how do we bridge between manufacturing and planning, and how do we bring those two together, that together they give us a good result. The one can't work without the other. Okay, and then there's some key frameworks that we can apply. So obviously, I think Karen will talk a little bit more about these things, but SCORE helps us to standardize things, the processes, get that all in place. Forecasting or demand-driven helps us with predictability. So what's coming at us? And certainly, you may have heard, demand-driven doesn't need or DDMRP doesn't need a forecast. Yes, it does, because how do we know what's out further into the future? So it's all about understanding timeframes. Okay, and then the basics, the foundational course, the principles of production and inventory management, where we are introduced to the planning logic. Okay, so to grasp that at the lowest sort of level of detail, understanding the nuts and bolts helps us to drive results into the future. Okay, so that is me. I hope I did okay for time.
No, excellent, Ruben. Thank you so much. And I think it's vitally important what you touched on, because so many a times as supply chain professionals, we want to just do data management. We just want to go through Excel and hold on to our Excel for dear life. And we don't want change management. And we don't want to understand. We want to do it off the cuff. We want to do it off experience. And I think you've articulated it quite well in terms of the education that's required, that understanding and including systems, and not just systems for the sake of systems, but understanding them so that they augment your actual supply chain. So thank you very much. Absolutely fantastic. And I just want to encourage the people on the line. We do see your comments and questions. We will get to them after the second presentation. So as we move along, we're going to go to Karen Pretorius. As I've said, she's an expert in terms of supply chain management, end-to-end, in totality, in training, and she's actually quite involved as well with the Association of Supply Chain Management in all facets, and actually is a treasure for us as a South African supply chain to have her present today. So over to you, Karen, with your presentation. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Jonathan. Always great to be on the panels with SAPICS. I loved my time as a director and happy to have handed over to the next generation. And I think for me, I've been a member of SAPICS for more than 20 years in various different capacities, from a volunteer to a director to educational provider. And I really love what the organization stands for and what supply chain in the world stands for. And should we say thanks or no thanks to war again, supply chain is at the top of the thought processes for everyone that's working in almost any kind of industry. So thank you very much for having me, SAPICS. To just put things into perspective, I thought, well, let me just flash up something about myself. I'm not going to dwell on it a lot. Jonathan has mentioned quite a bit, but I put those letters in at the top because I'm going to link back to it in a minute to show you that's not all that life is all about. Some of us like to study and to get qualifications behind us, and some of us are not so great at being a student, and that is also okay. You can still make a career out of things in any case. So where does it then come into with educational goals? Some of us want to get the letters behind our names. So you want to go for qualifications that are recognized, and they are recognized in terms of the South African Qualifications Authority and the National Qualifications Framework. And you can compare that to various industry certificates that we'll also look at. You also then have the opportunity to go for a degree or a diploma or occupational qualifications through the Council for Trade and Qualifications, QCTO. And you can also get certain professional designations through various professional bodies as well. Then we've got our international certifications. That's not necessarily a qualification, but more a certification on an international level that tells the world that you know what you are talking about. And often companies want you to have that knowledge, but you want to have the certification. And of course, nothing in life is for free. So you'll have to decide, do I invest in getting that certification? Whereas my company might only want me to have the information or the intelligence and the education behind it as well. That's where the SAPICS and the ASCM different certifications and exams come in. And then in industry, there are lots of different short courses. In South Africa, it is legislated that if something does not carry credit or not align to a unit standard in terms of the National Qualifications Framework, and accredited through the various bodies of SAQA, that should be deemed a short course. You can only get a certificate of attendance for that kind of course, and it carries no credit. So you can't use that to also progress your education at a formal institution. Sometimes you can use it, though, for recognition of prior learning. And what we find is that these short courses are often very specialized, a lot related around new technology. For example, everyone knows AI and what it's doing at the moment. It can also have a very, very narrow focus because you want to grow in a specific area. And we often use those kinds of educational courses for more personal development rather than getting or progressing to a qualification. And when you are making your choices in your career, you should consider, where do you want to go? Do you want to build your career, or do you want to collect letters behind your name? And of course, you can do both. If you then look at your career goals, where does that come in? Mostly we start out as an individual contributor, and from there you grow on to be a subject matter expert in a specific area, and from there a manager of processes or manager of things, depending on the type of industry that you're working in. And often from there people go into a role of more people management, a manager of people, and then more into business or general management and becoming the C-suite CEO, CIOs, Chief Procurement Officer, Chief Marketing Officer, Chief Supply Chain Officer in a specific organization. Now, how do you get to those different areas? In this, normally you, as an individual contributor, you have some kind of qualification. So NQF4, that would be your matric. degree or diploma that then follows on from that onto levels 5, 6, and 7, depending on the type of qualification. As you go more into the subject matter expert area, you can go even deeper and get a master's degree, an honors degree, or even a doctorate degree in specific areas. Often our managers of processes or things have got a bachelor's degree or an honors degree that could be linked to it, or a postgraduate diploma. And then again, as a manager of people, a similar kind of thing. And we often then find that people in the higher levels of the business echelons have got more advanced qualifications. And this is typically where another master's degree, postgraduate diploma in management, or a Masters of Business Administration might even come in. And there's also people with doctorates in those areas. How does that then connect to our SAPICS qualifications and courses that you can do? You can do the basics of stores and stock control and still be a individual contributor. Ruben also managed the principles of production and inventory management that comes in here. And then basics of operations management. Those are all SAPICS courses that are geared at this level, but can lead you into becoming a subject matter expert as well. Also, another SAPICS course is the Certified Supply Chain Analyst, and that takes you also from an individual contributor to a little bit more of a subject matter expert, but it is still a very introductory course in the greater scheme of things. If we then look at the green, because ASCM's corporate colors are green, that's Association for Supply Chain Management, there's a variety of different courses that you can consider to take your education and career goals to the next level. At the very individual level and the basic of your career, you've got your ASCM foundation courses, and there are 6 different courses that you can consider there. And they are comparable to these other SAPICS courses and to more introductory courses. And on an NQF level, that would be more or less on a level 4 or level 5 in terms of our South African framework. We then have a variety of different ASCM certificates, and I'm going to talk a bit about them in a moment as well. We've got a planning certificate, a warehousing certificate, a supply chain technology certificate, and also a resilience certificate. So these are at a little bit of a lower level, more of a level 5, 6, 7. And again, that brings you more in the subject matter expert area. Over here, then, we've also got the Certified in Logistics, Transport and Distribution course, as well as Certified in Planning and Inventory Management, that takes you on the subject matter expert journey, but also prepares you for being a manager of processes or things. So that could be also a departmental head or the lead subject matter expert in a specific area. And it also gives you some introductory people management exposure as well. If we then want to go truly into the next areas, the CSCP, that's the Certified Supply Chain Professional course, along with Certified in Transformation for Supply Chain Management, takes you to the next level in your career from being a manager of processes and things and a manager of people more into preparation for the C-suite general management kind of career goals that you will have there. Having said that, the CSCP is not on a higher level than CPIM or on a higher level than CLTD. CLTD and CPIM are more narrowly focused, whereas CSCP is more widely focused at the entire supply chain, where the other 2 areas look at specific verticals in the supply chain. Transformation for supply chain management, that is where project management and supply chain management comes together for truly transformational projects, where if you are implementing new systems, upgrading your systems in your organization, going for a completely new way of planning or forecasting, making a shift to DDMRP, this is where a qualification or certification like CTSC will really stand you in good stead. Underpinning all of this then is the SCORE digital standard course, that's the Supply Chain Operations Reference Model, and also the Sustainable Supply Chains course from ACSM. The partners for SAPICS IACEA, that's the International Supply Chain Education Alliance, that offers the CSCA, that's a Certified Supply Chain Analyst course. They also offer various other courses specializing in healthcare, sustainability auditing, like I've also done, and even supply chain technology and a form of demand-driven planning as well. So a lot of these courses can also be linked to how much time do you have on your hands, how much do you want to invest, also from a financial aspect, because all of these education offerings are not for free. There is an introductory free score digital standard course that you can do on the AACM's website, and I'll also share links to that in a little while. The question then often comes up, but what if I want to stay as a subject matter expert, as some kind of individual contributor? Because not all of us are cut out with the right personality to be a manager of people. You need a lot of patience for that. And it's not everyone's ambition to become a C-suite expert or a senior manager in an organization. So what do you do then? Well, you can continue with your education, and you can consider a career like myself. I've been a consultant now independently for almost 10 years, that you can also take your skills into other areas if you don't want to stay on in the corporate world. In many different companies, they do also make provision in their career planning for people to stay on as individual contributors as a subject matter expert level, and you can still progress your career as you go on. You don't have to stay just on a lower level in your career because you don't have the appetite to become a people manager. Often when you do take on these extra kind of responsibilities, it also means you might have to give up extra time that you could have spent with your family, or if you're staying in Cape Town, going out hiking on the mountains or surfing, and everyone's ambitions and career goals are a little bit different. Then I've got this one, NQGA. That's a different kind of qualification. And what I've like to call this is no qualification, but good anyway. Not everyone in South Africa has had the opportunity to go to varsity to study further, or have had the opportunity for the exposure or the funds to get additional qualifications. And that is also okay, because in your organizations, there will be ways that you can also prove yourself. If you do want a qualification, though, to help you, to underpin you in your career, there are lots of different free courses, and we will share this also with you afterwards, that you can go and look at. There's Future Learn, there's Allison, there's massive open online courses that's offered through a variety of organizations. MIT School of Management have got many different open courses. So does the Open University. On LinkedIn Learning, there are free courses. And don't always fall for the kind of thing where you now have to pay over money to just get a certificate. If you went into one of these organizations, you did your training, you completed the course, but you didn't want to pay, or you didn't have the $50 to pay for a certificate, that is also okay. And if you are then interviewing with a company that doesn't value self-learning and only wants to value it if there's a monetary value involved with it, maybe then that's not the right company for you. Through the United Nations and the World Bank as well, there are lots and lots of different free courses that you can look at as well. AACM is listed there, ICA is listed there. Those are not free, of course, except for the free score course. And then SAPICS has got a number of courses as well that one can look at, that's at a different price point. For continuous improvement, you can also look at Lean Six Sigma and the like, and there are many, many different institutions that offer this, many free ones as well. In South Africa, as I mentioned, if you want to look at something that you can progress on in terms of your education, if you want to collect qualifications, or you want to get to a position where you can have a BCom or a master's degree, then you need to go and look at that institution is correctly authorized and accredited by SAQA, the South African Qualifications Authority, and it's got the right things in terms of the National Qualifications Framework, and that they are registered and correct everywhere. So what you need to do is just check that on their websites, make sure that whoever you are working with are accredited and correctly aligned if that is the goal that you want to take. Again, not everything has to be accredited. You can also study things or attend courses just for a little bit of fun. If you then look at the full supply chain offerings from ASCM, this is a different way of looking at that information on the verticals of planning, sourcing, transformation, order fulfill and return, and orchestrating. There you can also then look at the various options to say, do you want to look at growing in this direction, or do you want to get more information across this direction? All of the information around all of these specific courses are on SAPICS' website. The key is for you in your organization to have the discussion with your line manager or to have the discussion with your HR to say what are their requirements for you to grow within that organization into the next level of, be it leadership, be it next level of subject matter expert, or be it general management, so that you know what you are studying or where you're going to improve your career on is actually focused on the right area for you. Very good to be a member of an organization like the Association for Supply Chain Management. A little reminder that all students can get free membership through ASCM. You can pop us an email and we can help you to get you set up if you are registered with a valid institution. And if you are a member, you can also go and visit through ASCM's website, the ASCM Knowledge Center, where there are lots and lots of small little courses that you can go and do. And they also count professional development points towards your certification should you already have certification. So please go and have a look. There's also an app for the Knowledge Center that you can download on your phone as well. And then a reminder here that there is a certification maintenance cycle depending on what certification you have. It is generally 75 points every 5 years that you have to collect through either being active in your community in supply chain, through continuous education, through attending conferences, webinars, seminars, and so on, where you then ensure that you get the right amount of continuous points so that you don't have to go and re-exam. Every 5 years, you can do that through your continuous professional development points. And my last little point that I will just leave you with are some books that I recommend for reading, as if you don't have enough time. Ruben already said that you all may have to work after hours as well. Open your mind, read different things. Some of them are for fun, some of them are more for specific subject matter expertise, but also look at how you can grow in your own world by just reading eventually different books that will open your mind to different areas. Okay. And I think that brings me to my time, Jonathan.
Well, thank you so much, Karen. You've given us a total, very, very clear mandate and understanding of the different offerings from the different organization and a clear roadmap as to how to augment your career, also with personal development at the end. So we really thank you. And I just want to say, Karen did mention she's been a member for all these years. She's been a support. She's a mentor. She's a friend. She's someone who always supports SAPEX and ACM, and she's someone who makes sure that the next generation is really helped and the current generation. So we really do appreciate, sometimes when you have people like Ruben, people like Karen, we don't say enough. Thank you for your selflessness and thank you for your inspiration. So I really want to thank you so much to the both of you joining us. It's been absolutely fantastic, and to hear your insights. I wish we had 72 hours, but we have to sleep and eat. We can't go on forever. So we'll do a couple of questions as we lean into the other questions that the team members have started. Maybe the first question to Ruben. He mentioned that he did not go into the vastness of DDMRP. But Ruben, if you can help us, how does DDMRP training help teams and individuals handle the recent volatility? We know that there is volatility, and like Karen rightfully pointed out, people are starting to be aware what is supply chain management and how does it play a role in every single facet of of us as human beings around the world. So maybe Ruben, if you can tackle that first question, sir.
Right, thanks, Jonathan. I'm just trying to get my camera back on. Not sure what I need to do here. Yeah, it doesn't look like it wants to come on.
Maybe we can continue while it's
Okay,
trying to.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I think it's going to come on now, or it's on. I don't know. Okay. Yeah. So look, DDMRP is a very different way of thinking. Firstly, okay. So one doesn't think along the same lines as your MRP systems work. Okay. So DDMRP looks at real demand data, and it responds to that. Okay, so it's able to respond very quickly. So it's got some very easy calculations. So you just need an ordinary calculator, no scientific calculator, that can just add, subtract, multiply, divide, and the innovation is that we can take the demand data that's presented or collected from the various points, aggregate that, and come up with proposals to adjust our inventory levels. So we're able to respond very, very quickly. How the traditional DDMRP systems work is it recalculates all of the buffer sizes every single day. Okay, so in that way, it makes these incremental changes either up or down on a daily basis. So without going into a lot of detail, mostly your MRP systems have like a safety stock, and the safety stock level is fixed. Whereas DDMRP doesn't do that. It recalculates all of your buffers daily. And in that way, using actual data, not forecasts, using actual data, you respond very, very quickly to any volatility up or down. What it also does, it gives you the visibility. So systems are notoriously poor with visibility. So you have visibility, and the planner that's driving the system looks at the outliers and responds to those. So if something's in control, leave it. It's when it's out of control that you focus on those areas, and that's what the system is able to help us to achieve. I hope that answers the question in sufficient detail.
No, it does. It does. It's a very scientific way of approaching it instead of just, like you say, forecasting and hoping for the best. So I want to encourage people follow Ruben on LinkedIn. You can terrorize his page. He's got all types of interesting things there. And yeah, DDMRP is something to really think about. Maybe let's move on to Karen and just ask Karen, which specific skills from your various courses, especially the ASCM focused one, in the journey created the biggest career achievement for you, Karen? Thanks.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. I think the biggest thing that I learned from CSCP is I did it in 2008. At that point in time, I thought I knew everything about supply chain because I'd been working at DHL for about 6 years. And I did my course and I realized I only know this much about third-party logistics. It's not supply chain. So doing a course like Certified Supply Chain Professional opened my mind to the fact that supply chain is very broad. It covers everything from the one end of the rainbow through to the other end of the rainbow, and it forces you to look holistically at your management of your business. Supply chain is basically, for me, everything that's outside of your organization, and operations is everything that's inside your organization. So when you start to see there's a whole world that affects everything that you do inside by the decisions that you make and that other people in the world make, that will influence us, like the oil price at the moment, the fact that Qatar can't produce enough helium, which will mean that there's not enough computer chips that can be created because we can't cool down those facilities with helium. Those are the kinds of things and the links that you start seeing when you do a course like Certified Supply Chain Professional. And I would really recommend that even if you've done a course like BCom Supply Chain Management, again, those areas are so narrowly focused, and you maybe do with something like BCom Supply Chain Management, 1 or 2 subjects that's got really to do with supply chain management. Go and do another course, even if you do one of the free courses. There are many books also available that you can go and read. Not everything has to come from a certification program, of course. And you're welcome to reach out, drop me a mail, and I'll send you my career guidance little mail that I've got and say, this is what you can consider. But for me, supply chain management, opening your eyes to see that there's more than just a narrow area of focus that you've been exposure or had exposure to in your own organization. Thanks, Jonathan.
That's absolutely brilliant, fantastic, and gives us a good understanding of how broad and how impactful supply chain management is to the rest of the world. I mean, a lot of times you wouldn't connect those dots, but if you're really in supply chain, like you say, Karen, you might be focusing on third party or warehousing and distribution, and you don't understand how these different various ecosystems actually are interlinked and actually provide a holistic supply chain, why we actually call it a supply chain. So that's absolutely fantastic. I want to go to our lovely colleague Claire Fitcham, just for some of the questions that are in the chats. Maybe Claire, if we can tackle those with Ruben and Karen, just to take in those questions from our audience. Over to you, Claire.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you, Ruben and Karen. We have a question from Bukle. He is asking, I've completed my CSCP and wondering which educational path to take from there in order to grow in my career. Please advise, I'm interested in demand planning and sales account management roles. Which one of you would like to pick up that question, or both of you can answer? Thank you for the question.
Yeah, it's a very nice question, but again, it's quite wide. So you really have to decide, where do you want to go to next in your organization and in your specific own career. If you've done something originally or as a default, always look at what you can build on, because that is an easier way sometimes to progress. Often what happens in our careers is that we get interested in many different things, and then what happens is that your career starts being like the hands on a clock. You are moving in all kinds of different directions, and sometimes you move forward and sometimes you move backwards on the clock, and that's okay if you don't want to become a subject matter expert or grow into a management role or want to go somewhere else. So you really have to decide for yourself, do I want to take what I have and build on top of that? What would be a good qualification to go for that? And does it then meet up with my career goals? Or do I want to stay with something where I can be narrowly focused, even though I might not get in terms of South African qualifications, again, necessarily the credits. In our South African environment, it's quite important often for our HR managers that they want to see you taking courses that will carry some credits, because that benefits the company in different ways with the skills development levies, of course. I hope that answers your question a little bit. I know it's a little bit vague, but we would need to spend a bit more time to really give you advice on that one.
Thank you, Karen. Ruben, do you want to add anything to that? Putting on the spot.
I agree. Often it's not a linear progression, as I mentioned earlier today. often one has to take a sideways move because otherwise you're so narrow, you don't know how your job is impacted by um, some other process in the supply chain, or how you impact that process in the supply chain. So yeah, it's really, I think, as Corin explained, it's really about saying, where do I want to go next, or where do I want to go long term, and how do I get there? It's not just climbing up the ladder, step 1, 2, 3. Often one has to take some detours to get there, and with the vastness of supply chain and how many moving parts there are. For me personally, it's about building quite a solid foundation. So taking a kind of the garden route type of thing, going through different departments, exposes one to a wide, or to the wideness, the discipline of supply chain, and then that helps one to advance. And when you're in a more senior role, if that's what you want to do, you're able to put your finger on the different buttons quite quickly. Otherwise, you're at the mercy of whatever happens, whatever somebody tells you. So to me, it's about building that solid foundation.
Excellent.
Yeah, Ruben,
Just
I'm
while
just
we are,
going to.
okay,
Oh, sorry,
carry on.
Claire. Yeah, and I think that's very good advice, Ruben. Where that ties in for me is with CSCP. I like to tell my students when I teach the classes is that our goal with CSCP is not to make you a subject matter expert of everything. As Ruben say, you must be able to connect the dots for the process or the job before yours and after yours. And also when you do get to that next level in the organization, maybe you now do become the head of planning, but you're not actually a planner by design yourself. You should have enough of a vocabulary and understanding of the supply chain in that area of planning to ask people, but did you consider this kind of forecasting technique? Did you even consider DDMRP when you came to this conclusion? It's to open your mind up to those kinds of questions so that when you do get into that position, you can ask more. You don't have to be the expert on every single thing. That will take many, many years to get there. But have the vocabulary and have the knowledge to ask more questions. And that is where it will take you next in your supply chain career. Thanks, Claire.
Thanks, Karen. Sorry for talking over you there. I just wanted to also just recognize Billy, who's a new SAPICS member and has been very engaged since he's joined and has completed a short course in procurement and supply chain management. And we look forward to observing his journey through the SAPICS careers. Kahiso has a question. I hold a BCom in supply chain management and want to grow myself and be a procurement specialist. Which areas must I mostly focus on? We'll come to you, Walter, just now. BCom focusing on procurement. Who would like to pick that up? Karen?
Yeah, I can answer there. So through the SAPICS and ASCM courses, there isn't a specific course that is focused on procurement as a discipline. But what you can consider is through one of SAPICS' sister companies, I can call it, is the Chartered Institute for Supply, Procurement and Supply, SIPS. And we can also share a link to that. I'm sure, Claire, we do a lot of work together. There you can look at their different levels of courses in procurement and supply specifically. So there are courses that you can also take on those specific areas.
Great. We also partner with Iskia, as Karen mentioned, and they have a procurement course. I'll put the link in the chat with that as well. Pete, have I missed another question? Walter, would you like to just put your question in the chat in the meantime? And I'll come to the next question. I'm new in this field of supply chain management, but mostly interested in procurement and warehouse management. Completed a diploma in management and advanced diploma, ASCM or SAPICS courses. Can one take to further my knowledge and skills to the love of SCM? I think the answer to that is yes. Perhaps to start with the SAPICS short courses. Your thoughts, Ruben and Karen?
Ruben, do you want to take this one?
And talk a little bit about it. So, okay, so obviously you've already got some information or insight into the foundational material or workings of a supply chain. So depending on kind of what, where you want to go, what level you are, CSCP exposes you to a very broad, what's the right word now? Perspective of supply chain at a high level. Okay, so it's coming in at quite a high level, but that pieces together the entire supply chain from A to Z. So that's a very intense course. It's 45 hours of classroom instruction, very high level, and quite rigorous to go through. So that's one. If you really want to get your teeth into supply chain and understand it, and you want to increase your knowledge, then that's the one to do.
Yeah, Ruben, that's a very good answer there. I think with ASCM, there's also the certificate in warehousing. That's a wonderful certificate. It's done in conjunction with ProLogis in the United States. When I went through that coursework, I really got exposed to a lot of different things that I hadn't gotten exposed to in other courses. So if warehousing is your thing, that is definitely something to look at to get deep understanding on the warehousing side. On procurement, I think we've mentioned on that. Through ISCEA, they also have got a course as a certified supply chain professional specializing in RFID. So that's radio frequency identification. And I think that's a really excellent course as well in terms of where technology is going, with especially robotics and autonomous processes within warehouses. I would recommend that course as well. And again, that will take you onto this path of being a very, very deep subject matter expert. So that's the choice that you have to make at a point. You can always circle back and then take on a wider course as well.
Thanks, both of you. Pete has a comment about a growing number of women showing interest in the supply chain sector. What challenges are they experiencing in this field? That's a very big question, Pete, and thank you for asking it. What I'm going to do is send you the results of the SAPICS Women Survey that we held last year at the SAPICS conference, and then did a presentation on that at the conference. And if that's something that interests you, I would strongly recommend that you attend the SAPICS conference this year, and I'll give more detail on that because we will be running a women's workshop on that. Thanks for the question. I'll answer you directly. Simon's saying, I hold a bachelor in logistics and supply chain management, currently operating in the construction industry. We source material from China. How do I grow in this area in the global supply chain? I know it's complex, which involves shipping, etc., and interested in supply chain consulting in the future.
Definitely CSCP coupled with CTSC. Definitely. It looks into a lot of different areas for international supply chain management planning, supply chain network design, and I think with commercials going to the east, of course, supply chain risk management is very important, as well as supply chain technology. All of those areas are covered in quite depth in the CSCP course.
So from my side, what I'd like to say on this one is you can't know it all. Okay, so you can't be an expert in every field. So I agree with Corin. CSCP is excellent for that, but you can't be an expert. So you're going to focus on one or two or three areas which you can be reasonably good at, but then you have to piece together a team around you that are experts in certain areas. Because remember, the world we live in is extremely dynamic and volatile. So you think you understand it today, and then tomorrow somebody out there somewhere goes and does something silly, and now you don't understand the dynamics anymore. So you can't keep your finger on everything. So for me, it's about the network that you've got. So do you have a shipping expert that you can tap into, as an example? Do you have an office in China that you can call on? Okay, because the Chinese do business differently, and you need to understand how they work. So having somebody in China that can speak the local language is great, because they understand what's going on there. You speak to them, and they give you some feedback. So I suppose the word that comes to mind is having trusted advisors. So besides the skills and the knowledge that you have, it's assembling a team of trusted advisors around you.
Great advice for everything in life. I think, Kobelo, your question on sourcing specialists has probably been answered now. I hope that's okay. It's a pleasure, Simon. I hope that we answered that well. Walter, I want to ask about backload, opportunity cost for purpose reducing waste on the environment. Karen, I think that might be your sustainable course answer, perhaps, if you don't mind.
Yeah, without having too much context here, I think building sustainable supply chains is a very good course to look at there, as well as the SCORE supply chain operations reference model digital standard that goes into a lot of areas there. And that's an area where you can go and do a lot of reading on, and also look at the ASCM sustainability standards that's on their website. You can get more information on there. For reducing waste, that is very good to look at things like theory of constraints, lean, total quality management, total productive maintenance, and areas such as Six Sigma. So there you would need to look at what is the key area that you want to look at for reducing waste. It's also addressed in quite a bit of detail in Certified in Planning and Inventory Management, CPIM, as well as CLT. Certified in Logistics and Distribution, and also in the CSCP course. All of those you can look at in quite a bit of detail for more information there.
Thank you. I will just take one more question, and then I've just put a note in the chat that anyone else we didn't get to, and apologies for that, is please email us your questions and we will respond to them directly. But I quite like this question regarding individuals interested in entrepreneurship, and I'm assuming that means in supply chain management. Which paths or industries are most suitable for early stage professionals? Big question. Maybe a bit broad. I'm not sure if you want to pick that up or think about it a bit, and we can answer later.
Yeah, early career, I think it's almost like you have to pick a lane in your early career and go into a specific area, because like Ruben said, if you try to be an expert at everything, then you also get to be an expert at nothing. And don't be fooled by AI and thinking you can ask all the questions to ChatGPT or Claude. Those are large language models. They are built on logic, where it's based on everything that it has read or processed so far. So those models use logic, and when we all use logic, there's only ever one answer. So in your early career, also think about being creative and look at creative problem solving in different areas than just the straightforward logical path. Because if everyone follows logic, there can only be one answer. So that is what I would encourage you to do, is to look wider in those areas and to then decide what area do I want to get into, focus in there, and don't be led down the garden path of just AI answers for everything. You can't just rely on AI to get a holistic picture. You need to also engage in different ways.
Excellent. Thank you, Ruben, for answering Chantal's good questions. Chantal is a great supporter and can help you with your career and finding your work in the supply chain space if you check out the People Shop. So I think, Jonathan, can we wrap up the questions now? And I mentioned email addresses there, so please reach out to Bev And Bev, is our SAPICS Administration Manager. She's on the call, and she manages all your queries and puts you in touch with the education partners. So Bev is a key person to helping you with your career path. I think we're going to ask Leanne to come on the call now, Jonathan.
Yes, 100%. So what does this all mean, team? Let's get into the practicality. Leanne Deval, she is currently a PC&L manager at Autoneum Holdings AG, and she will share her authentic story in terms of how these certifications have impacted her life, have advanced her life, and actually brought a tangible return on investment. So, Leanne, we want to welcome you onto the call, and then you can share your story. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Appreciate it. Thank you, Claire, for reaching out. It's an honor to speak to this forum today. I've enrolled in a CACP course to be done in 2023. I've done my exam in April 2024. CPXC for me was a huge milestone in my career. Even though I have a degree in logistics that I've done, it allows for me to bridge the gap between shop floor operations and global strategic planning, allows me to communicate with customers, my board of directors, fellow managers, my team in other departments, as well as freight companies. CACP also allowed me to introduce sophisticated concepts in inventory reduction management. I'm very fortunate in my company to be in a position where I am allowed to introduce new concept, processes, and procedures as I see fit into the company. So it's very fortunate that I have got that. I'm not restricted to a certain type of work. Since I've started with the company in 2018, and I've attained my CACP certification, just as an example, we have reduced inventory stock on hand from 21 days to 13 days. Now, if you look at the monetary value for that, it's huge. I've also introduced S&OP on a quarterly basis with my counterparts and my board of directors. I share master schedule, master production schedule, RCCP, DDMRP on a weekly basis with all my counterparts, my team, the whole factory. Actually, I've got visual displays that I've put on. It's very beneficial that people now know what they are targeting. And I know how to communicate that to them, not just an Excel spreadsheet as such, because I know logistics guys love their Excel. During 2025, I actually received the best practice during our IITF system audit findings for freight cost management, which is critical for total product cost, as well as risk mitigation for logistics noted in our BSCP. Since I've done my certification, I must say I have shared my learnings and used it not only with my team, but also with my counterparts. I'm working together with my quality department, my production department, and even my finance department. I understand the costings, especially in finance, on a much better scale. I think when you're in logistics, the customer is everything. I just want to satisfy my customer and kind of, you don't really worry about the rest. But since I've done my CACP, I now have more respect and understanding for my finance department, and I know where they're also coming from. And I think we're working better together in achieving the overall targets for the company in total, because it's not only me, there's not an I in team, it's the whole team that's there. You need to be working together. So yeah, especially in today's volatile market, global market, you need to be prepared for the unexpected. And educating yourself, for me, CACP was so beneficial. I loved the interaction over a weekend. My partner that was training or giving training courses, I was able to phone him even during the week and made a training session after hours with him, and he will explain to me certain stuff. If I had questions, he will assist me. So for me, it was very beneficial, I must say. The interactive approach really works.
Amazing. Thank you, Leanne. Thank you for being a constant and ongoing supporter of SAPICS, and congratulations on your qualifications and certifications, and keep rocking. And we'd love to see you at the conference on the stage sharing your knowledge at some point. And thank you for taking the time to share your experiences with our attendees today.
And thank you so much, Claire, for
Jonathan,
your appreciate.
Jonathan, can I quickly share the slide now for the conference? Are you happy with that, or was there something else you wanted to add?
No, 100%, 100%. I think you can share that, Claire. We can go ahead. Thanks.
Okay. Well, won't take up too much of the time, and obviously, being part of the SAPICS community, you will have starting to receive a lot of information about our annual conference. It is the leading event in oh, sorry, I've gone to the wrong side. The leading event in Africa for supply chain management, and as Jonathan mentioned, SAPICS is very proud of the fact that it's 60 years old this year. And we have had 60 years of connecting, collaborating, and transforming supply chain organizations and individuals. The theme for the conference is Legacy to Leadership, and strongly recommend, as part of your learning in supply chain management, that you do your best to attend the conference and to just continue your personal and professional development by attending the workshops, site visits, plenary sessions, panels, and networking with fellow supply chain professionals. Cape Town, 19th to 21st of July. And then just to reiterate, and we will put the call to actions into our email of the slides, that we have a lot to offer. All areas of supply chain management, end to end, and all of that information can be found on the brochure, and there's a link on the slide as well. Please reach out to Bev and I if you have any questions. If you're not sure, we can direct you to our educational experts, as well as to our authorized education partners. I wanted to just thank Jonathan for hosting this event, and for his support as a director. We didn't actually thank him and give him a bit of a plug, because he is a great supporter of SAPICS too, as a director and fleet manager of SBV. So he's very busy moving cash around the country for us. Thank you, Jonathan, and your team. And thank you for being the head of the education pillar, along with Nikita Reddy, and guiding us to make sure that we are delivering the right kind of courses for our community. And if I may just take the opportunity before we close to thank Connor and Bev in the background for their work for this event, and really to thank everyone. Round of applause, please, for Ruben and Karen for giving up their time for the SAPICS community today to really help you guiding your way through the your career journeys. Back to you, Jonathan, if you'd like to just formally close, but thank you.
Thank you so much, Claire. To thank you as well. And as you mentioned, all the team behind the scenes, making sure that this was a fantastic event. Thank you to Ruben, and as well as Karen, always supporting us. And just to mention, team, please make sure you do your plans now for the biggest conference in supply chain management on the continent. I'll tell you, my personal journey has been augmented and helped by meeting people like Karen, meeting people like Chantel, who posed a question, Ruben, different types of people that have really impacted my life and made it all the better. So networking is very, very key, and it will help you achieve your goals in the future. Just want to close with a couple of quotes. And Benjamin Franklin, the former president, said, an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. And a very famous one by Nelson Mandela, he said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. So I want to encourage you, contact us. We will give you all the help and assistance to build and navigate this pathway to excellence and to build an absolutely fantastic career in supply chain management. Thank you very much. And with that, I want to bid you a great afternoon further. There will be more of these going on in the future. Stay tuned. Follow us on LinkedIn. Follow us on all our platforms. We will definitely be sharing more of these going forward. Thank you very much, team. Have a wonderful afternoon further. Thanks very much.
Everyone, thanks for staying on. Thank you, Chantal.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, to tie in with Jonathan, I have a famous quote from my mom. She denies that she said it, but she did. If you read a book, you may as well write a test about it. So choose wisely what you read.
Very wise mother. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you
Bye.
very much. Thanks.